Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder. A couple quick news tidbits. First is the Department of Education for the state of Rhode Island rolled out its plan for the City of Providence school system. The state had taken over the schools late in 2019, beginning of 2020, and it lays out a 5-year plan with a lot of goals. Lots of people are poking at it. We'll have reaction all day, and I'm sure into the weeks ahead. Providence schools were ranked by Johns Hopkins University as one of the worst performing school systems in the country. So stay tuned more on that as well. Our schedule this afternoon, we're going to go to the United Way in 1 second, but after that, Dr. Michael Fine, former Director of Health for the state of Rhode Island, will join us at 12. Today's a Tuesday. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Governor no longer holds her press briefings, just Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So after Dr. Fine, stay tuned for any other updates on GoLocal. Let's go to United Way. Cortney Nicolato, welcome.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're at the forefront of battling to help support many of the organizations that really help Rhode Islanders in so many ways, and you have a significant grant announcement that's really going to the community first organizations. These aren't big corporate entities. These are frontline community organizations. Talk a little bit about this grant award.
Yeah, we're thrilled to announce rounds 7 and 8 of the COVID-19 at the Rhode Island Foundation. The fund has raised about $8.5 million, and this latest round is another $700,000 out into the community to organizations who, as you mentioned, are providing critical supports to Rhode Islanders today and will over the long term. Groups like Building Futures, who works directly with many Rhode Islanders to learn skills and trade skills and labor union skills. And so they've been supported. Various soup kitchens, organizations who are fighting inequities that are happening each and every day in the state of Rhode Island, like the African Alliance of Rhode Island. So we're thrilled to be able to provide these additional supports. And we've nearly finally dispersed all $8.5 million out into the community. And we're incredibly grateful for the generosity of Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Islanders have really stepped up, but as we talked about prior to coming on, there's a lot more need. I do want to just touch on this $700,000. What was great to see was that this was one across the state from Newport to Woonsocket. Folks in Northern Rhode Island with the African Alliance and Julius's great work there, receiving significant funds for that organization. How did you select the organizations, and how much more need is there out there?
Yeah, every time we have a cycle of grant applications that come in, it's always double or triple what we're able to fund, and that was no exception this go around. So. What we were pretty particular in is the COVID-19 response fund has been really focused on organizations who were responding to COVID-19. And so we were early on, it was very much around PPE distribution. It was very much around providing the incredibly important basic needs to Rhode Islanders, workforce development. How do we get folks trained as the jobs and the market and commerce changes? And so that was very intentional in our COVID-19 response. We were also very intentional about ensuring that we were getting to supporting the populations that needed us most, those that were being affected by COVID-19 at the greatest percentages or numbers. And so that was really important. The United Way now, though, is looking at recovery just as much as we've been looking at response and ensuring, and to our conversation earlier, ensuring that Rhode Islanders have the tools that they need to thrive, ensuring that organizations, great nonprofit organizations who are providing critical resources to Rhode Islanders are still here 6 or 12 months from now. And we're in the reviewing process of a grant cycle called the Rhode Island Recovers Fund at the United Way. And we had almost 200 nonprofits apply. And that is about probably 4 times what we will be able to fund. So the need is exceptionally great. And many nonprofit organizations are at the point where their PPP, their payroll protection program dollars are starting to diminish. And so the time to get these philanthropic dollars into the community is best now more than ever.
Listen, there's a lot of competing issues. It's got to be one of the most complicated times in American history. We've got a pandemic, we've got an economic recovery crisis, and we've got a major discussion about race in America as well as in Rhode Island. How is the United Way trying to deal with, I know how we're dealing with it from a coverage standpoint at GoLocal. We throw our arms up some days and go, oh my God. But how is United Way play such a critical role in trying to balance and bring the community together to the benefit of all, and to make sure that all these things get balanced right now?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I love and what motivates me and my team is our mission is to strengthen the Rhode Island community together, right? And so that requires all of us to come together, to work together, but it also requires us to identify those inequities that have been occurring in the Rhode Island sector and the Rhode Island markets for so long. And so, you know, the United Way put out a series of grants last year, our equity grants, and those grants were centered on organizations who are breaking the barriers to systemic racism and inequities that are happening in our community. We are convening corporate partners and others to have conversations. Our team is consistently driving more education and information. We're partnering with great groups like the Equity Institute and others. This is a 400+ year challenge, not just in Rhode Island, but throughout the world. If we do not come together at this time to have actual conversations and make actual change, we will be doing our community a distinctive disservice. And so we are dedicated to this work. We're dedicated to ensuring that the systemic issues above and beyond racism, but racism plays a critical role, such as housing, that we're finding unique and creative solutions to help solve some of those problems. Housing, to me, is one of the biggest things on the list. If you do not have a safe and affordable roof on the top of your head each and every night, how can we ensure that you are healthy here and safe? How can we ensure that you have the access to education and resources and all of that? And so United Way has been deeply committed in this work for a really long time, and we've just upped our game even further.
Yeah, let's talk about housing. You are at the forefront, you and your team. You guys seem to be almost everywhere talking about it and pushing the General Assembly to take some significant move during a period of time in which the state faces a significant budget deficit. How do we balance those two of really pushing forward in expanding low-income housing and affordable housing opportunities to Rhode Islanders, and balance it with some financial realities?
Yeah, it's incredibly important. And housing, to me, is one of the greatest investments the state can make to ensuring stability in our state, in our commerce. And, you know, if you think about if a new company is coming into the state and they don't see access for their employees to have safe and affordable housing and access to a high quality education, they're turning right around. Right. So, you know, housing has such a critical component to our overall economic health and well-being. You know, I think it's tough. You know, we have a web series for United Way called Community First Conversations, which is on Fridays. And I had both chairs of Chair Abney and Chair Conley talking about what they're being faced with. And at the very top of the list, you know, we're looking at the short-term critical issues that are plaguing our state, but we cannot stray away from looking at the long-term issues that have been facing our state. Housing is at the very top of the list. We have not invested nearly as properly as we should in housing. We cannot make cuts to help short-term answers in long-term solutions. And so we're advocating incredibly strongly for the ability to develop safe and affordable housing, the ability to, you know, we're losing more housing stock every year than we were actually building. And then where we are building, we're actually building higher price point homes than is actually needed to fill the housing stock in Rhode Island. And so we're pushing the envelope in a wide variety of different ways. We're advocating greatly for the need for safe and affordable housing. We have to be thinking about a permanent funding stream. If it's not this year, it needs to be immediately next year. And absolutely, without a doubt, we need housing bonds on the ballot in November, even above and beyond the $25 million that has been originally proposed. We have to be thinking about the long game in this pandemic, not just the short game, because we will feel that effect for decades to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We had one of the top mortgage firms on last week, and we were going through the real estate numbers. There's simply no houses for sale in Rhode Island, even though there's people looking from New York and from Boston to come into the market and buy. Houses go on the east side of Providence in less than a day at or above asking prices, which are now at a super premium. Average house, single family home, I think is $315,000 in Rhode Island. That is only affordable to a very, very small percentage of the families that live here. So it's getting very, very complicated. Cortney, so many issues. You get the last word. What do Rhode Islanders need to know, and what can they do to help you?
You know, I've had a lot of Rhode Islanders come to me and say exactly that. What can we do? How can we help? First and foremost, if you have someone that is the person you love, or a person, a neighbor or a friend in need of help, please have them call 211. 211, 24/7, 365, available in 200 different languages. We are here to help folks through this incredibly muddy waters that is this pandemic and economic crisis that we're facing. So please do that. United Way and our Community Impact Fund will continue, and it continues to put investments into the community. We would love for you to consider a gift to the Community Impact Fund. You can visit liveunitedri.org to consider a gift. And then just follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Live United RI. As I mentioned, every Friday we host Community First conversations. These are conversations with men, women throughout the community as they are sharing what the critical needs are of Rhode Island and how you can play a part. So
listen, I've seen those Friday events. You've had some top level celebrities on. I even saw Kyle Bennett on one of those.
You did see Kyle Bennett.
Yeah, so you're bringing in kind of global superstars into that project. Of course, everybody knows and everybody loves Kyle Bennett in Rhode Island, longstanding community leader and a top player over at the United Way. Cortney, thank you so much for joining us. And stay tuned at 12 noon, Dr. Michael Fine. Everyone, please be safe.